Oh, hey there. Welcome to episode 6 of the Power and Potential podcast. As always, I'm really excited that you're here, and I'm really excited that you're about to hear this amazing interview. In this episode, I'm talking to Jan Keck, and Jan is all about empowering people who feel disconnected to connect with strangers in a meaningful way that helps them build their tribe. He helps people make these connections way less awkward by teaching them to ask deep questions. And we will get into a lot more of that during this episode. Jan is a go-getter with a super calm demeanor, and I just love that about him. During this interview, you will feel inspired, you'll get some great new ideas on how to engage with people around you, and you'll feel really calm at the exact same time. And you can definitely thank Jan for that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever felt awkward talking to people you don't know, or struggle to find people to surround yourself with that truly understand you, and can support you, then this episode is definitely for you. I know that I have been there. Trust me. I can't wait to know what you think about it once you listen in. So before we get started, and before I let you in on this amazing conversation with Jan, I just have one quick request. If you really enjoy this episode, I would love for you to take a picture and post it on Instagram stories and tag myself and tag Jan in it. We would both love to know that you're listening and what you thought about it. And as a huge thank you, I will definitely highlight you in my own Instagram stories. All right, let's do this, shall we? Here we go. Hi, Jan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Miriam. I'm really happy and excited to chat with you and see where this conversation goes today.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to dig deep in there with you, and I know that's what you're all about. So
yes,
it's perfect. Okay, so why don't we start by you telling us what you're doing right now and what brought you here?
To your podcast?
in your career.
Right now, my mission is to empower people who feel disconnected with the tools to have more meaningful conversations and to make it less awkward to talk to strangers and build a community.
Amazing.
That's pretty much what I'm all about right now. And I've been running a video marketing agency for 6 years, where we focused a lot on helping people connect with their audience through video. And in the last 8 months, I've created a new product that is called Ask Deep Questions, and it's a deck of 48 question cards, which I am showing you right now.
Yeah.
And that's basically 48 thoughtful questions that help you just have more meaningful conversations by asking you things that you might not have ever talked about with your friends or your family or strangers.
That's awesome. Okay, so why did you choose to do that? Why did you choose to create that deck?
The story how it started is actually quite funny, because I never planned to create a product.
Mm-hmm.
I was hosting this camping trip last summer to take people out of the city. I live in Toronto, so I would take people out of the city and go into nature for a 3-day canoeing trip. So we'll be completely off the grid. There's no cell phone reception, which I love.
So awesome.
Because then you can actually connect with each other and you're not distracted by your smartphone in your pocket and internet connection and Instagram and Facebook. Like all of that you don't have.
Totally.
But it was a group of people that didn't really know each other. And it's about a 3 to 4 hour drive to get to the park. So I was thinking, okay, there's strangers in the car and we're driving with several cars. I can only be responsible for the people in my car, but what can I create to help people get to know each other a little bit better in that 3 to 4 hour drive, which is pretty much the beginning of the whole experience.
Right.
And I was very inspired because I've been collecting these deep questions that I hear on podcasts, read in books for a while. And I just sat down in like 3 hours and I created the first deck of cards. And I sent it off to the printer. And then when we left to go to our trip, I handed a deck to each car and just told them, hey, here's some deep questions if you want to have some conversations on your way up. And
no way.
That even me, with the people that I already knew in my car, like good friends, we went to places that I would have never imagined learning about, like when they were growing up and things that they struggled with in their relationships. It was so much easier to have a card ask that question than me bringing it up, because I
so
think
true.
that's one of the reasons why I felt the cards is such a great tool, because you don't have to be vulnerable to bring up a topic. You just pick a card and then the card asks the question. And then
that's amazing.
You have the chance to be vulnerable then.
That's awesome. And so what kind of impact did that have on the trip, do you think?
It influenced the whole weekend. So it was just like meaningful conversation after meaningful conversation, like in the canoe paddling, because it was 2 people in a canoe, each like group of 2, each pair had like amazing conversations. And then we ended up having the most beautiful weather, a like completely clear sky at night. So we went out on the middle of the lake with our canoes at midnight, and we could see the stars looking down into the lake, the reflection of the stars.
Wow.
And then we started having like the most meaningful conversations I think I've had in my life.
Wow. That's awesome.
And that was not even questions that I wrote on the cards. It was just inspired from, hey, we started having those conversations, and it just kept going. That's
amazing. That's so good. So I take it you probably strongly dislike small talk?
I've recently decided that my goal is to have meaningful small talk.
Okay, fair.
Instead of the small talk that if like small talk always needs 2 people, and if both people engage in small talk, it's the most horrible thing ever.
Totally.
But if you don't want to have small talk, you have the chance to switch the topic, change the topic, make it more interesting for yourself.
That's awesome. So do some of your questions, do you have any questions that are meant for the small talk, like meaningful small talk, or is that coming?
In a way, so actually the cards have 3 different levels. I'm just going to show you the cards right now.
Okay.
So there's like a curious card, a brave card, and a vulnerable card. Actually, there's several of each category, but the curious cards are basically conversation starters.
Oh.
Not everybody is able to become very vulnerable right from the beginning, especially if you don't know the other person.
Right.
So it's designed to basically take you on a journey in your conversation, to go from a curious card, and then once people get more comfortable with sharing, you go to the brave cards, which invite you to share more personal stories, and then vulnerable is like the deepest level, bottom of the ocean cards, which is questions that you might not have ever answered to anyone.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would say most of the curious questions you could probably use in like a small talk type situation.
That's amazing. That's super cool. I've been like watching what you're doing online and seeing how you're doing this, and it's been really fascinating because I don't like small talk at all. I struggle with it a lot, actually. And so when I talk to people one-on-one, and, like the other day I went out for lunch with someone who I don't know very well, but the entire conversation was not going very deep, and it was tough. It was tough for me to actually get to know her. And understand more about her, which I found difficult, So I feel like even these cards would help people almost like in a practice sense, like get familiar with the questions. You don't necessarily have to pull out the deck of cards, right? But like being familiar with the questions would allow you to more easily have conversations with people.
Yeah, I would say that all you need is one question, and then you just have to follow the thread where it's going. I actually believe that everybody has a fascinating story. You just have to kind of ask the right questions to find it.
Yeah.
And if the other person is open, they will love to talk about it. So even like a lot of times when I have a small talk conversation, and the usual question is, hey, what do you do?
Right.
That's one that comes often, especially in like a networking, like business type situation.
Right.
I like to, instead of asking that, I like to ask, what's something exciting you're working on right now, or like what's a big win you've had recently?
That's awesome.
Makes them like, it allows them to choose, hey, I want to talk about a personal win or something like a side project that I have, or I want to talk about my work if that's something that I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
But what do you do is a question that if people don't like their job, they don't want to talk about it, and then they are not engaged in the conversation.
Well, exactly. And a lot of people struggle with in my line of work, I do a lot of like career development stuff. And I find that self-worth is very much tied to what we do. for a living. And a lot of people have a major disconnect between what they do and what makes them feel good. Like they're not necessarily the same thing. So when you say, what do you do? You're often getting at people's worst insecurities sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's not the best question to get people to open up to you and have like a really fun and open conversation, right?
Yeah. And I guess the other tip that I can give is once the other person shares something, just follow the thread. Like just ask follow-up questions to what they just mentioned, especially if they start getting excited about sharing something. Don't switch the topic. Just keep going in that same direction, and just whatever they finish on, use that as like your next question. And takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
But I've actually learned that from just doing documentary films and interviewing people, which I've done before I started the video marketing agency.
Right.
And there was one trick that somebody shared with me once, which is just repeat the last 3 to 4 words of what somebody said if you want to keep them talking.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really fascinating how that works. And people don't even pick up on it immediately.
Oh, I love that. I can see how that could work.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to try that.
You should try it during this interview.
Yeah, I'm going to try it on you when you least expect it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, people probably don't know how I met you, Jan. And I think it's relevant for my next question. So I met you in your awesome Facebook video challenge, which was amazing, by the way. So you held a 5-day challenge that got people pretty much to get out of their comfort zone and show their face on camera in like the silliest ways possible. So I remember I dressed up in something really weird and awkward and went on video, and then I shared it across all my networks, and it somehow felt okay because I was part of a challenge, right? And so, I could fall back on the fact that I'm doing a challenge, and that's why I'm being so weird and awkward. But I can honestly say that challenge it really did help me like pick up my confidence on video. And although I haven't been consistent still on video, but still it's made a huge impact. And then since then, like I've met you in real life, obviously. We've met up at a couple conferences and all of that. And so when I met you, I knew you as the video guy. And now you're like kind of shifting to become like the connection guy. So I feel like there's a link between those two things. And I'm really curious to know how you see that link. How do they connect for you? And do they connect for you?
They totally connect. And I think I mentioned a little bit in my introduction. For me, it's still about connection. Like video is an amazing tool, and I would say probably the best tool if you want to connect with people that are not local.
Right.
You have an international audience. If you have a Facebook group and you want to have your members more engaged, but they're all virtual, they're not in your same city.
Yeah.
Then video is like the second best way to build those connections compared to like a face-to-face meeting.
Right.
Because video will help you showcase your personality. People get a feel of who you are much better than with any other medium. Podcasts are great.
Yeah.
Which I think is like the next step, like face-to-face video, audio.
Yeah.
But with video, you can see facial expressions, you can see body language, and that's how we connect the most. It's not so much what you say, but how you say it.
Right.
So I feel like, to me, it's very related.
That's interesting. Do you feel like when you're doing videos, when you're the one being filmed, how do you deal with the connection piece on your end? Because I feel like the connection is stronger for the people who are watching you. But what about for you? Where do you get that from in that kind of context?
I usually visualize like a specific person or a group of people that I'm talking to. And most of the time I know like if I'm doing a Facebook Live on my personal Facebook page, I'm just thinking of the friends that I would like to hear that message.
Right.
If it's more of a business sense, I'm thinking maybe of a client, ideally the perfect client, one that I really love and want to get more of, that I'm kind of visualizing.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot because speaking to a camera is kind of very unnatural. It doesn't give you any feedback. Like even now it's great because we're having a video chat, or when you're like Skyping with people or FaceTiming people, people are like nodding, they're smiling. You're like, okay, good. I'm doing a good job. I'll keep going. But if you're just talking to a camera, then it doesn't give you any feedback.
Exactly.
If you already think that you're not doing so well on camera, all these thoughts just start multiplying, and you start like criticizing yourself, and you become very like insecure about like your delivery.
Right.
For me, it's all about like not thinking about myself, thinking about the people that I'm talking to, and thinking about the message I want them to hear, or the impact it could have once they or see it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I over the last couple of years, while I've been building my 2 businesses, I've noticed this trend towards isolation. Like I've just been like putting my head down, getting my work done, and really not interacting with people very much at all. And by the time I got to the end of that period, I was like, okay, I'm burning out, number one, because I was working too much, but I was also not really filling my cup, so to speak, you know? And so I feel like if, you know, we focus on these wonderful, deep conversations that get people really bonding and not just talking just for the sake of talking, right? But actually getting to know each other and connecting properly. I feel like that also kind of spreads into other areas of your life, so that, you know, when you are on video talking to a camera, you actually feel a lot more confident and you feel a lot more authentic because you're more fulfilled in general. Does that make sense? Yeah,
in a way, like we all crave connection. And I know you work from home most of the time, right?
Yeah.
I work from home a lot as well, and so do a lot of other like entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yeah.
And it can get very lonely.
Yeah.
And once I've realized that community and connection is something that I value a lot, I actually built that into my schedule. I built that into my schedule, like at least every 2 days, I need to get outside of the house for either like a meeting at a coffee shop or just like working at a coffee shop, just to have that human interaction.
Right.
My wife's an entrepreneur as well, and she works all day. She comes home late.
Yeah.
So usually we don't like
cross paths.
Yeah. I have my cat here at home. That's like the only interactions that I have, which helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Makes me feel a little bit less lonely. But yeah, I put it in my schedule. Like, can I have meetings? Can I have phone calls? Can I have like video chats with people? Every second day.
That's so good. That's so good. I've come to that place now too, where I'm like, I need to integrate these things actively into my life, because I do want to continue being an entrepreneur. So, you know, in order to make that feasible, you have to be able to like fill the gaps, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is like, there's so many amazing Facebook groups that if you find the right Facebook group for like, that shares the same values with you,
right.
They can be a huge support in like feeling a little bit more connected with people. Like I know both of us have been to the World Domination Summit.
Yeah.
And like that Facebook group is super engaged. And I know that anytime you post something, you will have somebody replying or commenting on it.
Right.
And I'm actually heading there this week, and I just posted, hey, I'll be there the weekend before it starts. Who's around? What events are happening? Let's meet up.
Yeah.
And I just posted that like 20 minutes ago, and there's like 8 comments on it already.
Oh, no way. Amazing.
So it's people want to connect.
Yeah.
You just have to find the right people and the right location, if it's virtual or in person.
Totally.
To do it.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, like part of it is identifying like the need to connect and then being proactive about it, you know? And I think some of us, including myself in the last